Hey all, this is Davey T from Fieldsport Scotland. Just heading out to work. Got the camera set up here. I genuinely have no idea what tonight is going to bring. I've been shooting some crows today on the 17 HMR. I am away to do some deer and then see how the deer side of things go. If deer goes well, it could be just deer I'm doing tonight. If deer doesn't go well, might ditch off and see if we get some foxing. I am heading to the stalking show this year. This is kind of a new thing for me, doing all these shows. I don't really do a lot of shows, but over the years I think I missed out because obviously I've done a lot of reviews for a lot of companies and it feels like I've kind of just missed all these big shows. I'm not regretting missing the IWA. I've heard a lot of people came back from the IWA with COVID. I wouldn't be surprised if quite a few people got ill after the British Shooting Show. And that's just the way it is, I guess. The stalking industry is a strange one. And to be fair, I'm going to do this as an episode, as a podcast. The stalking industry has been a strange one recently, especially in Scotland. It's not the traditional stalking like we're used to hearing about, and the romantic wander through the hills and getting into a herd of stags and picking out the right one to be shot and things like that. The romanticism of deer stalking in Scotland is gone. I think a few people are trying to keep it alive, but genuinely I think it's completely gone now. Now, bear with me in regards to the vibration of the camera. It's obviously on a mount at the moment, but yeah, it's with the new legislation and the way the Scottish Government has been, for good or for bad. I'm not going to get into that conversation today and whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. But deer stalking in Scotland is going to be changing, and I've envisaged this, and I have been talking about this for a number of years now, like 14 years I've been talking about this. Wrote an article about the demise of the Highland stalking estate, or Highland Victorian style estates. Scottish Government want to kill more deer, simple as that. They're making it harder and harder for recreational stalking. I haven't heard whether they're going to include this new rule where everybody who stalks, even if it's a guest or an overseas guest who doesn't do it for a living or doesn't even have a syndicate place but just wants to go out for a day stalk, I haven't heard yet if that applies to them, whether they can be able to take a shot on a deer as long as they're supervised. It's not a bad thing in a way for everybody to be trained, but if you're being supervised by a qualified stalker like myself, or a competent stalker on an estate, for instance, who does have the relevant qualifications, then there should be no reason why a guest cannot go along who is not trained, because they're being supervised from the minute they leave the vehicle on all the way through the stalk, and they're doing no meat handling whatsoever. Most guests don't do any of the gralloching. They might help out with the odd drag, but there's nothing in the dragging that can affect anything. It's a pretty night. It really is a pretty night. But it's 2 degrees Celsius already. It's only coming up to 6:30 in the evening, and we are starting to get dark. We've got another hour of daylight left, and then it'll be dark. And that comes into question: is Nature Scot going to be more favourable to people like myself who are involved in larger cults? Which I think that's a bit of a shame. I've been involved in large cults now for a very long time, and it can be exhausting. And there's a time in somebody's life where they want to be able to kind of just actually be able to manage deer the way herd management used to be. But that's not what it's called for, and as long as there's work out there for me and the likes of me to do this sort of stuff, I'll probably still do it unless somebody allows me to manage deer the way I see fit, or manage deer into a better into proper herd management, so that there is good quality deer, good quality herds, sustainable herds. There's a lot of emphasis on the difference between deer management and deer culling, and there's so many people. I spoke to a lad yesterday about trying to give advice on how to get into this industry as an understocker, and to be honest, it's very, very difficult. It really is. Everybody in the industry is wondering if they're going to have a job in the next couple of months. This DSC thing is a bit of a worry too. There is a lot of people that are going to use this just to be able to line their own pockets. It wasn't compulsory before, now it is, or now it's going to be. I guess this is what the future brings. I really do. I think light on. There we go. I guess this is what the future brings, said deer stalking in Scotland. And it's happening in Scotland. Eventually it's going to happen in England, Northern Ireland, Southern Ireland. And there's people all over the world who make pilgrimages to Scotland every year to shoot their first proper Scottish red stag. And I'm be honest, in fact, looking through all the literature, and if you have a great belief in regards to breeding and stuff, the only purebred red stags that are left, a red deer that is left, is in the Highlands of Scotland. A lot of emphasis is made on the culling of red deer, and maybe that's wrong in a way. The red deer population isn't the demon that is being made out to be. There's sika, for instance, and roe deer do far more woodland damage than what red deer, for instance. Yeah, don't get me wrong, herds of red deer will probably do damage to peatland, cause problems with peatland restoration and stuff like that. But there is a lot of properties, a lot of rewilding properties that don't have the struggle of having herds and herds of red deer. And in fact, red deer are easier to manage than sika, for instance, or muntjac, or Chinese water deer, or even roe deer. You can reduce the numbers to a point, but there are always going to be more coming in, and you never understand where they're coming from. You never fully know. So tonight I'm heading off to do sika, and I've got no guests. I haven't booked any guests this year to take them out in day stocks because I haven't got an idea. I haven't got foggies what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do. I'm reluctant to taking payments for dates at the minute, just in case, for anybody that doesn't have a DSC for that matter. Anyway, I'm looking forward to the stalking show. There's going to be a lot of like-minded people there. I'll be on the DNT stand. I know it's going to be a kind of short podcast, but to be honest, in reflection, I wonder how this is all going to pan out. I wrote an email to my MSP the other day there, and while I was reading it, more and more things jumped into my head. is, for instance, another problem is this lead ban. Now, we talk about bullets being put into game meat, you know, and lead being put into animals that are going into the food chain. What we don't talk about is using copper on the likes of foxes or rabbits. Soft skin. I've had my ups and downs with copper over this last year. I really have. Close range shots at sub 100 yards. I've hit soft tissue, even in the vitals, and the bullets haven't expanded, just penciled right through. Headshots are not at all, to be honest, at close range. I've got copper one. I've got Lehigh coppers on loaded up just now for the deer tonight, because that's all I use on the estate. But the fact of the matter is I've had so many issues, so many bloody issues with copper over the last couple of years that I don't even think they're humane. They're bloody expensive too. Went and bought that box of CXs, which are copper, for the 6.5 PRC. They were $17,999. A box of 20 rounds ammunition, nearly 100 quid. How can you manage deer? The Scottish Government want another 50,000 deer shot per year. Now, how are they supposed to do that when people can't afford to buy the bloody ammunition to do it? It's stupidity. But likewise, I'll go back to the foxing issue. You put even a 55 grain copperhead or a 60 grain copperhead or a 40 grain copperhead running at nearly 3,000 FPS or even over 3,000 FPS in some rifles. A 22250, you'll be at 3,400 or 3,500 FPS. You put that into a fox at close range, that bullet is going to go right through that fox. And where the hell is that bullet going to go? Even with a backstop, you're going to get a ricochet. They don't expand. There's something that's always played in my mind in regards to this, you know. And people keep talking about full metal jackets not being completely different from copper. I'm going to be honest, are they? Are they? Full metal jackets, okay, they may have a lead core, some of them, but they are still a solid monolithic round. These things go straight through. They don't cauterize, they don't expand. Some copper doesn't expand. I don't think copper expands fast enough for it to do terminal damage that like lead does, or tip lead even. They're not as explosive, say, as a Nosler or whatever, you know. But hey, I'm no expert, but I've shot a good few hundred deer with copper and many more with lead, and I see the difference. I genuinely do see the difference. So yeah, it's not going to be a good time for stalkers or shooters for that matter in the coming years, in the months ahead and the years ahead. A lead ban will mean getting away from traditional lead bullets, which are genuinely, I would believe, are more humane. I've never known anybody to get lead poisoning from a bloody deer that has been shot with a bullet. It's not the same as lead shot. It's not like pellets into carcasses lying in the wilderness, you know, so that other birds can pick out the pellets and eat the pellets and die of lead poisoning. It's not about that. It's not the same. I'm just going to look over this clear fell here. It's easier to see it from the village. See if there's any here. Turn the thermal on. Yeah, so we've got that. And I just wonder how this is all going to pan out. Genuinely. I've got a feeling that we could find ourselves in a bit of a pickle with it all. Anyway, as I said, I'll be at the stocking show. Anybody wants to chat about things, let me know. Oh, thermal's on. See if there's anything up there. This thermal's playing it. What's going on? So we will head off and go back up into the actual estate. Yeah, so as I said, I'll be at the stocking show and people can actually come and speak to me and voice their concerns if they want, but there's nothing I can do. I've not got any influence in the world. To be honest, I've written to my MSP. If the Scottish Government want to go down this road, they're going to have to subsidise. They're going to have to subsidise ammunition costs. Ammunition costs are huge and run through the roof. I got no problem shooting large numbers of deer. I've been doing it for a very long time. If that's the way it needs to be. But I have to think about this lead ban, really do. The technology is just, it's like the electric cars. It's like the technology's not there, the infrastructure's not there yet to support this change so quickly. And there's very few actual copper bullets on the market, and they're expensive. They are expensive. Now, I haven't tried these CXs yet. I haven't been able to shoot the PRC yet because the fact is my moderator hasn't arrived. So that is one thing that I'm planning on doing next. So I'll check them in game, on game, those CXs, which I'm curious about actually. I'm really curious about. But £80 a box, oof, that's bloody expensive. I don't know if I'm going to go down that route. I don't think it's going to. I'm not going to go back to factory after reloading, that's for sure. Not at that kind of prices. £80 for 20 rounds of ammunition is tough. That is tough. But yeah, so we are getting to the point where stalking in general is going to be very, very, very difficult. And I knew it was coming. And it possibly wouldn't affect me, because I'm already in a kind of position where I am meeting all the aspects that the government require. But I would love a job on an estate where I'm involved in managing deer herds to good quality, to see what my deer look like every year, get to know my deer actually. That's the thing about these culls, big culls, you don't really get to know your deer. You can only kill them once, and once you have went through a small herd, then you have to learn the habits of another one. And the fact of the matter is, if you do come across, say, a herd of Sika, maybe 5 or 6, maybe 7 in there, and you take 3 or 4 out, you're already going to change the habits of that deer. Sika are very diverse. They're territorial, but they're not. They will quite happily change their habits. They'll decide that if they're getting persecuted at night, they'll stay in the shadows. They'll stay in the cover at night, and then during the day they'll come out and they'll feed on open grasslands. And And that's kind of what's happening up here at the moment. But the longer days are coming in, and that'll confuse them a little bit, so we'll be out all the time, pretty much. But yeah, so I just don't know how it's all going to go. Comment in it. Let me know your thoughts. I think that's what the problem is that the people who are making all these decisions for us, right? They're not involved in what we do. They're not involved in deer management. They don't actually see what's going on the ground. And it's a shame, because the ones who are involved, like Nature Scot and the Forestry and Land Scotland Rangers and stuff like that, a lot of them in the operations side are afraid to kind of rock the boat. They don't all agree with what's all these changes, and they're scared to say anything about it because of the fact. And I swear, if I had a job for Nature Scot, I wouldn't be on YouTube right now. If I was working for Nature Scot or the government, my YouTube channel would be gone. I'm going to be honest, because to be fair, it's a good career to have, and they do a genuinely good job. You know, I do agree with some of the things that they do. You might not, because you're on the opposite side of whatever's happening to you or your estate or your ground or your type of shooting or whatever. But I'm not against them, you know. I'm not against a lot of their policies. The deer numbers do need to come out, but there's got to be a sustainable way of doing it, and a more forgiving way of doing it. There also has to be this thing where if deer numbers need to come down, it might only be in certain places that the deer numbers need to come down. And other places, what is going to happen to that ground anyway, you know? And there is an argument there. It's like a lot of places where deer are, they're doing absolutely no damage or having no effect on what is genuinely their habitat, you know? I don't know. Comment below. But yeah, it's going to be a strange couple of months. It really is. Anyway, what's coming up in the next couple of weeks? I am going to be doing my carrying on with my 6.5 PRC Bagara build. That'll happen. I've got a lot more pest control videos coming out. I am testing the Arkin EP5 on the 6.5 Creedmoor, and I have got the DNT1 on test at the moment. I'm going to give you a full line up with that. I also had made arrangements with a friend of mine in America who is getting a hold of a DNT1 and possibly using it in a PRS competition. So I'll keep you posted on how that goes. It's going to be an exciting couple of months, to be honest. My one, like this video, this 20 odd minutes or whatever it's going to be, this video was basically to kind of talk about deer stalking and what's going to be happening over the next couple of months. So the deer management nature restoration orders are grown arms and legs. They're now requiring everybody who stalks in Scotland to have a DSC 1 minimum. They'll also probably legally require them to have insurance, which was not a compulsory thing before, and registered on the fit and competency register as well. So that means that there's going to be a heck of a lot of responsibility put onto the deer managers, and pretty much it gives someone to blame when things are not going right. So it's not just responsibility, it's a blame factor here as well. So I can see individual deer managers finding themselves losing firearm certificates and stuff like that. The other point about it is we need to find out if paying guests have DSC 1s as well. The only people that are going to benefit out of this is those a lot of cowboys that run DSC courses, you know. But hey, there's plenty out there that are very good. I can always put you forward to a few people that are trusted. But yeah, guys, I'm going to be honest, it's going to be harder and harder for people not living in Scotland to shoot deer in Scotland. Anyway, stay safe. Catch you at the stalking show. Keep up with my content. Thank you so much for all the support you guys have been giving me, and I'll catch you again next time.